In 1946, SIPA was founded in the aftermath of World War II to educate leaders for a new world, building multilateral institutions. Over the past 7 decades, SIPA alumni have assumed leadership roles across many of the world's great post-war institutions, but also as leaders in their communities, in cities large and small, in governments, NGOs, and industries worldwide. A global health pandemic, populism and inward-looking national movements, growing income and racial inequality, and a climate crisis remind us that the world is increasingly interconnected across borders. These crises have also demonstrated the power of leadership in our institutions, in our communities, in our governments, to help reunite a fractured world. Tonight, we celebrate remarkable individuals who, through their inspiring actions, unite us. Their stories are wide-ranging, but share a common theme, that in the face of great challenges, the power of collaboration and empathy can change the world for the better. This evening's celebration highlights the important work so many of you are doing throughout the world, and of SIPA's crucial mission to educate the next generation of global leaders. The challenges of our time require us to engage in this work together. We're grateful for your commitment to advancing our mission, and we welcome you to SIPA's 20th Annual Global Leadership Awards Gala.
Good evening from New York City. I'm Merritt Guéhenno, Dean of Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs, and it's my enormous pleasure to welcome you to SIPA's 20th Annual Global Leadership Awards Gala. I'm delighted that you could join us for our first ever virtual gala, and I promise it will be filled with interest and surprise. Tonight, we gather to pay tribute to the leaders and artists who inspire us, to support our remarkable students, and to recognize the many friends who make our work possible. We're grateful to each of you for being with us and for your involvement and support. In this moment, we are happy to celebrate our astonishing, remarkable students. We must also acknowledge the pain and difficulties that have been felt around the world and in our great city of New York, and to reflect on how interconnected we are as a world, and to look ahead to building a positive shared future. Let me share what awaits you tonight. We're honored to celebrate 2 individuals who exemplified leadership, vision, and character. Kristalina Georgieva, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, and the late Vartan Gregorian, President of the Carnegie Corporation of New York, who tragically passed away last month just as we were about to film him for this occasion. To help us pay tribute to our honorees, we will hear from 2 very special guests, Robert Zoellick, former president of the World Bank and former U.S. Trade Representative, and Caroline Kennedy, former U.S. Ambassador to Japan. This year, SIPA also has created a new recognition to honor those who inspire and unite communities through their outstanding contribution as artists, advocates, and cultural ambassadors. And we're very proud to present SIPA's first ever Global Inspiration Award to 2 internationally renowned artists, the pianist Lang Lang and the mezzo-soprano Joyce Di Donato. Later, we'll have a chance to hear from each of them, and they will perform something very special for us. We will also hear from several outstanding alumni who are making a difference in areas such as climate change and the environment, urban and social policy, the global economy, and international relations. And we also have a special message to our New York and global community from U.S. Senator Charles Schumer of New York. It's going to be a great evening. Thank you all for joining us. It's now my enormous privilege to invite Columbia University President Lee C. Bollinger to say a few words to begin our program. Under President Bollinger's leadership, Columbia University has become one of the greatest institutions of higher learning in the world. And in this difficult period, he and Interim Provost Ira Katz-Nelson have mobilized the remarkable expertise in our community to support our students, to keep us safe, and to contribute to New York and the world, and to ensure that Columbia University addresses some of the world's most challenging and important questions through our research, through our training and engagement with the world today. I must say I have never been more proud of Columbia University than during this very difficult year we have just experienced together.
Let me begin by saying how really sad I was to learn of the passing of one of this year's honorees, Vartan Gregorian. I have known Vartan for decades. He was a remarkable educator, a philanthropic leader, a historian, and a great friend to me, to Columbia, and to the world of higher education. Vartan left lasting legacies at each organization he was part of, from the University of Pennsylvania to Brown University, the New York Public Library, and most recently, the Carnegie Corporation. SIPA benefited greatly from the generosity of the Carnegie Corporation under Vartan's leadership, and we are very grateful for that support. In Vartan's passing, we have lost a giant whose spirit and commitment to the pursuit of knowledge we will always carry with us. Our thoughts are with his family, friends, and loved ones. I'm proud to have known him and really grateful to have this opportunity to celebrate the life and legacy of a remarkably brilliant, thoughtful, and charismatic man. I'd also like to recognize the other recipient of the SIPA Global Leadership Award this year, Kristalina Georgieva, who is working on the front lines to stabilize the global economy. She has a deep commitment to addressing poverty, as exhibited through her years of service at the World Bank, and we are proud to recognize her for that work in economic development and on climate. This year, I know SIPA was particularly interested in acknowledging the power and inspiration of art and of music. The importance of these forces in our lives is something we all feel keenly right now, as our access to them has shifted so much during the pandemic. So I would like to recognize the artists here with us tonight, pianist Lang Lang and singer Joyce DiDonato. We're really grateful for your work and for being with us. And I would also like to thank the wonderful Dean Guéhenno for her remarkable leadership of SIPA, especially during this really challenging year. As always, the Gala provides us with a moment to reflect on our ever-changing world and, very importantly, to provide support to our students at the school. This has been a year of unimaginable difficulty. At Columbia, we have faced difficult decisions about how to continue the essential work of teaching, research, and engagement, all the while giving our students the education they deserve and need. I know the SIPA community has been at the front lines of COVID-19 research and policy analysis. There are many examples I could give, but I would just note the experts who have studied the spread of COVID in livestock processing facilities and researchers who have examined the concerns of essential workers about risks of their health. Faculty have assessed the impact of the pandemic on global supply chains and energy markets and have advocated for economic help for low-income earners. This kind of work aligns with what we have called the fourth purpose of universities, which describes our obligation to advance human welfare by applying scholarly knowledge and resources to solving the great problems of our time. It's a commitment that has become even more important and more urgent and more obvious over this past year. And SIPA well understands the fourth purpose. The school has been fulfilling this mandate since its founding in 1946. SIPA is where scholarly knowledge finds application in international finance and economic and political development, in security, energy and climate, human rights, urban and social policy. SIPA scholars work to broaden our collective understanding of global problems and then propose solutions, often by interacting with governments, firms, NGOs, and communities, all the while preparing the next generation to lead on these issues. SIPA's mission is absolutely essential to the university. I am really grateful to the members of the SIPA community for what you do, and to all of those who support this vital work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee, for your extraordinary leadership and for your commitment to SIPA. Our school has never been stronger, nor our mission more vital. SIPA is defined by our remarkable faculty of scholars and practitioners, and our amazing students who take their policy passions into the world, into governments at all levels, businesses, social enterprises, nonprofits, and more. Our students come from every corner of the globe, more than 100 countries and counting, and the diverse perspectives and talents they bring to campus and the range of experiences they represent are among our greatest assets. We hope you enjoy a brief glimpse of just a few of our students speaking in their own words. And afterwards, we will hear from a very special former student, now a proud SIPA graduate, Claire Shipman, an award-winning journalist, best-selling author, and university trustee.
I would reunite the world by trying to reestablish the sense that we all
must come together because we rely on each other.
Europe, Africa, Asia, Latin America, you're working towards development overall, and I guess that
people should understand each other and love each other and embrace each other.
One of the things we've been doing at SIPA and what I think is going to be key to the future is
looking for solutions through sharing knowledge and resources.
To tackle these really deep and systemic forms of oppression and marginalization that communities in the United States face, but also communities all around the world.
I would reunite the world by creating or striving to create an inclusive society that's more than surface level and that's inclusive for all.
By trying to bridge both private sector and development sectors.
I hope that as a policy leader, I can use the power of data and science to bring people together.
By understanding the transformative power of leadership.
In spite of the polarization, I am confident that humanity still exists, that people can lead with kindness and compassion in their heart. That through collaborative leadership and global solidarity, we can move forward as citizens of the world.
Hello and welcome. I'm Claire Shipman. As a proud graduate of both Columbia College and SIPA, and as a trustee of Columbia University, I am so honored to be with you this evening, to recognize some outstanding leaders and to support our remarkable SIPA students. 100% of the proceeds raised through tonight's gala will provide critical financial aid for SIPA students, like the ones you just heard from. SIPA stands for bringing the world together, and our mission is to prepare the next generation of global leaders. The video we just saw provides a glimpse of the ideals and values that unite our students, and some of the many ways they're contributing to shape a better future. When I reflect on my own time as a student at Columbia and at SIPA, I credit the university for jump-starting my career as a broadcast journalist and as an author. During my second year at SIPA, I was offered an internship with CNN's newly formed bureau in Moscow. At the time, I wasn't really that interested in journalism, but I was very interested in figuring out how to get to Russia, which had been the focus of my undergraduate and graduate school studies. Well, what was supposed to be one semester turned into 5 years in Moscow and a full-time correspondent job. Thanks to SIPA, I was ready for that opportunity. And although I had a White House reporter job waiting for me back home when I got back, my SIPA experience was so valuable to me, I came to New York to finish my final semester at Columbia. After a long career as a broadcast journalist and as a regular contributor to Good Morning America, I rediscovered a passion for research and writing, something that was so appealing to me about my time at Columbia. One of the reasons I went back to graduate school. Now, as an author, my writing focuses on women's leadership and success in the workforce and the confidence gap that's part of what perpetuates a cycle of gender imbalance. That research is one of the many reasons I value SIPA's work to help students develop the skills to assess and create healthy and equitable public policies, especially those that promote gender equality. As a SIPA graduate and as a financial aid recipient, I know firsthand how transformative a SIPA education can be, and that financial need should not be a barrier to accessing it. And as a Columbia trustee, I couldn't be more proud of the university's steadfast commitment to financial aid. For many years, we've made this a priority, and we have dedicated our resources accordingly, but there is more to do. On behalf of SIPA and our students, thank you for giving so generously to support financial aid. Quite literally, your generosity makes a world of difference.
Thank you, Claire, for your dedication to Columbia and to SIPA. And special thanks to our SIPA students. It's your energy and commitment that make us feel hopeful for the future. And now let's hear from some of our alumni.
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Garcetti, SIPA class of 1993. They say that you can see the face of the world on the streets of Los Angeles, the city I'm proud to call home and honored to lead as mayor. And in this role, my mission is to harness that diversity, to mobilize all of our communities, and to make sure that every Angelino from every country and state, from every continent, can be part of the economic, social, and political life of LA. Each day I call on the lessons that I learned at SIPA and tap into the global perspective I gained from my classmates from around the country and the world. And tonight, I simply want to say thank you. Thank you to SIPA's faculty and staff and generous supporters for all you do to prepare the next generation of leaders to lead and shape a future of mutual interests realized, shared dreams fulfilled, and greater connections, understanding, and cooperation across borders. I'm wishing you all the best. Go SIPA.
I'm Jennifer Morris, CEO of the Nature Conservancy and proud SIPA alum. Our planet faces dire consequences from the climate crisis and accelerated biodiversity loss. I believe that we can address these consequences. We can achieve a brighter future, but only if we work together across geographies, industries, and schools of thought to create change. True global radical collaboration is the key to environmental progress and bettering the lives of all who depend on nature. I am so grateful to SIPA for building that spirit of collaboration and global thinking in our community.
My name is Dina Kawar, and I am the ambassador of Jordan to the United States and a proud alumni of SIPA. In an increasingly interconnected and interdependent world, diplomacy more than ever is facing unprecedented challenges. And in dealing with these increasingly complicated challenges, we had to also adapt to a social media revolution, a necessary tool with all of its benefits and shortcomings. Thank you, SIPA, for preparing us early on to develop a sense of curiosity, think out of the box, and to be global in our outlook to issues.
I'm Kweku Beduado, CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in Southern Africa. As the world goes through a once-in-a-century crisis, I'm responsible for some of the markets in the most exciting but volatile parts of the world. I'm dealing with ambiguity, uncertainty, and economic volatility, but my SIPA training has prepared me adequately to deal with these challenges. My role also brings me into direct contact with presidents, prime ministers, senior government leaders, and key decision makers across our markets. And thought leadership and advocacy becomes a necessity during such encounters. Once again, SIPA, I have SIPA to be grateful for.
SIPA is a training ground for global citizenship and for next generation of global leaders. I would love to see more SIPA graduates joining the World Bank Group and other multilateral institutions. My best wishes for my alma mater.
It's now my great pleasure to introduce the first segment of our awards presentation. This evening's first Global Leadership honoree has devoted her nearly 30-year career to extraordinary public service. Throughout that time, Kristalina Georgieva has helped to shepherd large international organizations through periods of remarkable change. A proud daughter of Bulgaria, Dr. Georgieva trained as an environmental economist and began her career in public service in 1993 at the World Bank, where she served in many senior roles, including as vice president and corporate secretary, and later CEO and acting president. In 2010, she served on the European Commission, shaping the agenda of the European Union while responding to both the euro area debt crisis and the 2015 refugee crisis. Dr. Georgieva was named managing director of the International Monetary Fund in October 2019, just months before the COVID-19 pandemic thrust the global economy into chaos. And tonight, we honor her not only for her notable career, but also for her bold leadership of the IMF as it has moved to address the far-reaching economic impact of the pandemic. Under her leadership, the IMF has truly been a first economic responder to support countries by providing policy advice, financial support, capacity support, and debt relief. Her focused efforts on the world's most vulnerable, on supporting economic growth, and her ongoing efforts to contribute to addressing climate change exemplifies the essence of distinguished international leadership. To help us pay tribute to Dr. Georgieva, it's my enormous pleasure to welcome the Honorable Robert Zoellick, former President of the World Bank, former Deputy Secretary of State, and former U.S. Trade Representative, and author of an outstanding new book, America in the World.
It's my privilege to be with you today. Kristalina came of age professionally as the Cold War began to thaw in Bulgaria in the late 1980s. And like others who tried to pry open an authoritarian system, she began by expanding awareness of environmental dangers. Kristalina then pursued her quest for freedom and reasoned debate by studying environmental economics at the London School of Economics and MIT. Her doctoral dissertation was on environmental protection and economic growth in the United States. And then Kristalina joined the World Bank in 1993. Now, when I began at the World Bank in 2007, Kristalina was a rising talent in the field of sustainable development, and she'd also been a successful country director for the bank in Russia, where she added a feel for political economy to her portfolio. I think I surprised Kristalina a bit by suggesting a new post for her, Vice President and Corporate Secretary. The World Bank has an on-site board of 25 directors with about 300 staff with lots of meetings and lots of paper. So the best corporate secretary is a diplomat, working across the full range of the bank's topics and clients and donors and even with the capitals. Before long, Kristalina's abilities were recognized far and wide. Bulgaria tried to lure her back. One weekend after Bulgaria's nominee to the European Commission had crashed in her confirmation hearings, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria implored Kristalina to take the commission post in Brussels. Now, at that time, the Brussels elite was not yet used to commissioners from new member states. So they assigned Kristalina the portfolio for humanitarian affairs. But it didn't take long for Kristalina to demonstrate how the EU could demonstrate good for others, as well as do well for the European Commission. And Kristalina was recognized as Commissioner of the Year. For her second term, the powers that be gave Kristalina the budget and human resource issues, which are, of course, the heart of the system in Brussels. And soon, I was counseling friends from big EU countries, including ministers of finance, to seek out Kristalina to help them solve problems. This Bulgarian woman also gave the Commission global experience. At one point during the Euro crisis, the commissioner spent a long night patching together a compromise with a big sigh of relief. And it fell to Kristalina to point out that the comedy notwithstanding, markets were not going to be satisfied. A little later, the World Bank went through a series of reorganization. And the president asked Kristalina to return as CEO and help straighten out the disconnect. And she did. In 2019, Kristalina became the 12th managing director of the IMF and the only one who has seen firsthand at home the opportunities and perils of hard, big reform. Now, the IMF and World Bank have different organizational cultures. The smaller IMF staff is centered in the headquarters, and amazingly, they tend to follow directions. There may have been some tremors at the IMF when a World Bank person took over. Yet Kristalina has a wonderful way of asking questions and adding impetus with good humor. At the start of the pandemic, the IMF had to speed up decisions, and it did. There are big questions ahead for the world economy, not just of theory, but of practice. And we know Kristalina will focus on the priority and assemble coalitions inside and outside the IMF to press the world economy forward. One final story. One of the benefits of leading the multilateral institutions is the opportunity to work with, learn from, and draw together people from many countries around the world. It's an incredible resource. One day at the World Bank, as part of our cultural exchange, we watched a costume troupe of Bulgarian folk dancers. To me, it looked like a combination of Irish river dancing, Cossack gymnastics, and trilateral training, all while singing. And there, amidst the young Bulgarian dancer warriors, was Kristalina, encouraging, breathing a bit heavily, but still smiling. This is the leader and woman, internationalist and Eastern European, friend and good spirit that you are honoring today.
Thank you, Bob, for your wonderful introduction. During the years we worked together, those included the global financial crisis, you taught me an important lesson. In a crisis, act swiftly and target support to the most vulnerable. Now, at the helm of the IMF during the worst crisis since the Second World War, I put in practice what I learned, and I thank you for it and for your friendship. And my sincere thanks to Dean Guéhenno and SIPA for this great honor. As Bob mentioned, I grew up in a communist country. In my youth, I was taught that we were all equal, but I was soon to learn some were more equal than others. And this caused deep scars, underutilized talents, underperforming economy, ultimately leading to its collapse. In the years since, I have seen many changes for the better in Bulgaria and around the world. So I strongly believe that we can all overcome the obstacles we face, and that the public good is best served when we are all different, but have an equal opportunity to reach our full potential. Today, as we work to overcome a crisis like no other, we also face the risks of deep scars, from lost educational attainment to deepening divergence in economic fortunes within and between countries. A K-shaped recovery could lead to a K-shaped world of haves and have-nots, unless we act. I'm an optimist. I believe this crisis is making us more sober about what matters in life and more aware of our interdependence and our dependence on nature. Not only we can prevent long-lasting damage, we can build a post-pandemic world that is greener, smarter, and more inclusive. And as Melinda Gates said, optimism isn't the passive expectation that things will get better. It is the conviction we can make things better. In accepting this award, I pledge to do my part. Thank you.
It's my honor to present the Global Inspiration Award to Joyce Di Donato, who is joining us from Spain, where she has been living and working during these past months. I'm delighted that she will be treating us this evening to a short performance. Joyce, we can't wait to hear your voice.
Thank you, Dean, and to the Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. I am deeply honored to be recognized by you tonight and to stand side by side, even virtually, with such towering humanitarians. Kristalina, the late Vartan, who I had the extreme honor of serving on the Carnegie Hall board with, and Lang Lang, my extraordinary brother in music, doing such remarkable work with kids and education, bringing music into their lives. I am humbled and inspired to be among you tonight. I also appreciate all of you for tuning in. I know by now this is the new normal. We will meet again. And I think music will be one of the binding factors that pulls us forward into the future and gives us strength to come together again.
It's now my distinct pleasure to welcome the senior senator from our home state of New York, Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer. Senator Schumer has spent his entire career working on behalf of the people of New York City and state, and as Majority Leader, he is playing a crucial role in the Senate, helping to guide our nation forward. Thank you, Senator, for joining us and sharing a few words with us.
Hi, everyone. This is Senator Chuck Schumer. And thank you to Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs for the chance to share a message at your 20th Annual Global Leadership Awards Gala. To President Bollinger and to Dean Guéhenno, thank you for your unflinching leadership during these uncertain times. And to today's recipients of the Global Leadership Awards and the recipients of the Global Inspiration Awards, congratulations on your honors this evening. I hope very soon we can hold events like this in person again, but for now, I hope everyone watching virtually is safe and hope that all your loved ones are healthy. We all know that this pandemic has changed our ways in countries we could have scarcely imagined 13 months ago. It's the worst health crisis since the Spanish pandemic flu 100 years ago, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, and it has put a magnifying glass on the deeply entrenched inequities in our society that long remained under the surface. When, God willing, we put this crisis behind us, we will have a choice between going back to the way things were before, or we can lay a foundation for a more prosperous economy in a country where all Americans have a seat at the table. As Senate Majority Leader, the first New Yorker ever to hold that honor, I promise that I'll work with President Biden, with Congress, and with all of you on policies that will help our country reach its full potential. Through the American Jobs Plan, we'll make a once-in-a-generation investment to bring our infrastructure to the 21st century, creating millions of new jobs, strengthening our economy through regional projects like New York's so important Gateway Tunnel, and opening new fronts in our fight against climate change. We'll work to strengthen our democratic institutions and fight voter suppression. We'll also work to right the deep wrongs in our criminal justice system and push for common sense gun safety legislation. And, especially important to me, we'll keep calling on President Biden to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt so we can give students relief and fight back against income inequality. This and much more we must do in the weeks, months, and years ahead. But we can't hope to make it without you, the students, the faculty, and all the supporters. You must have a seat at the table. With your education, your insight, your experiences, we can one day build a nation truly worthy of its founding ideals. I look forward to seeing all of you in person soon, and thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Senator Schumer, for your leadership and for being with us this evening. Our next Global Leadership honoree, Vartan Gregorian, was known worldwide not only as a visionary philanthropist, but also as a gifted scholar and educator. Tragically, he passed away in April of this year, but his legacy will long endure and continue to inspire us all. He tells his story in a remarkable biography, The Road to Home, and from Tabriz, Iran to New York by way of Lebanon, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and more. His was a life of hardship, achievement, a quest for higher meaning, and the opportunities of American life. We're privileged to recognize his vast accomplishments and his global impact through his works as a scholar, philanthropist, and advocate of education and New York institutions. Throughout his career, his leadership at the University of Pennsylvania, the New York Public Library, Brown University, and the Carnegie Corporation of New York helped transform these institutions. Columbia University has also benefited greatly from support from the Carnegie Corporation, including SIPA and several of our scholars. But tonight, we gather to honor Dr. Gregorian's life in full. And even during this past year, he led Carnegie as one of the founding members of the New York City COVID-19 Response and Impact Fund. And thanks to these efforts, over 700 critical arts and social service nonprofits across the boroughs of New York City received support to weather the onset of the pandemic. We applaud Vartan for his lifetime achievements and his commitment to the importance of knowledge and learning, the importance of advancing a peaceful, prospering world enriched by deep understanding of the world, the same values that launched SIPA 75 years ago. To help us pay tribute to him, it's my honor to welcome my friend Caroline Kennedy, a classmate from Columbia Law School, who served with great distinction as the U.S. Ambassador to Japan and is a trustee of Carnegie Corporation of New York. Ambassador Kennedy recorded her reflections on Vartan shortly before he passed away, and I'm grateful to share them with you this evening as they convey his extraordinary accomplishments and character. Accepting the award on his behalf is fellow Carnegie trustee Jean-Marie Guéhenno, who knew Vartan for decades. Jean-Marie is also rejoining the SIPA faculty and is a director of our Kent Global Leadership Program on Conflict Resolution. And now, Ambassador Kennedy.
If you were looking for the perfect person to receive a Global Leadership Award from the School of International Affairs in New York City, you'd try to find someone who hailed from an ancient civilization and came to America to seek the future, someone who was born a Christian and taught Muslim history, someone whose scholarship is impeccable, who's inspired new generations at state schools around this country, as well as at leading Ivy League institutions. Someone who's dedicated to empowering women and elevating scholarship in the developing world. Someone who's dedicated their life to the pursuit of knowledge and to making books and learning accessible to the widest possible audience. Someone who knows that peace requires understanding and that we can't understand those that are different and come from different places unless we learn from them and include them in our own quest for knowledge. You would also want someone who spoke many languages, someone who is an immigrant in this city where more than 1/3 of us come from other places. You definitely would want someone who is beloved by their staff, their peers, their students, their benefactors, their grantees, and their board, their family, and their millions of friends of all ages around the world. Because you're Columbia and you don't like to get too far out ahead of things, you would want someone who has already received the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the National Medal of the Humanities, along with the Legion of Honor and more than 70 honorary degrees. Most importantly, you would want someone who believes with their whole heart and soul that America is the greatest country on earth, not because of what we do or what we have done, but because of what we give, who we are, what we believe, and what we can be in the future if we stay true to our ideals. Someone who is working every day to make sure that every student in this country understands our history and their responsibilities as citizens. But then you might say, I give up. That person does not exist. It's impossible. And I would say, you don't know Vartan Gregorian. I received many wonderful gifts from my parents, and one of them is friendship with Vartan. As a young man, Vartan was inspired by my father's vision for America, and he has brought those ideals to life in a career of public service over the past 6 decades. My mother was passionate about the power of words to change our lives. She believed that the study of history was the key to understanding the world and making it better. She saw in Vartan a kindred spirit. As a lifelong New Yorker, she was deeply committed to our city institutions, from Grand Central Station to the Metropolitan Museum and the New York Public Library. She was thrilled to be a part of all of Vartan did to put the library at the height and center of New York cultural life, making it possible for all New Yorkers to have access to the learning that could help them fulfill their dreams. No one is more committed to the importance of civic education than Vartan. Having grown up in countries which are still struggling for freedom and human rights, he knows both how fragile and how fundamental our democratic traditions are. He understands that young people need to learn and practice being citizens, that our civic responsibilities need to be taught, not taken for granted. No one believed that more strongly than my Uncle Teddy, who was a huge admirer of Vartan's and worked to make civic education a requirement in our schools and to support the teaching of history. Serving on the board of the Carnegie Corporation for the past 4 years has given me my own chance to see the master at work. Vartan's encyclopedic knowledge, his unwavering moral compass, and his joyful curiosity are an inspiration. He never feels that the work is done. He is always excited about the challenge of doing more, of helping more, and of supporting those on the front lines of freedom, fairness, knowledge, and human dignity. He has transformed American philanthropy into an agent for social change and intellectual excellence on a global scale. It's an honor to introduce him here tonight.
Good evening. I'm Jean-Marie Guéhenno. I'm honored and humbled to have been asked to deliver the remarks prepared by Vartan Gregorian for this ceremony. Our first encounter goes back 38 years. I was a young French diplomat just arrived in New York in charge of promoting French culture in the United States, when I stumbled on an article of the New York Times about the revival of the New York Public Library. It described Vartan as, I quote, a rare combination of scholar and salesman who has used cajolery, humor, inspiration, and boundless energy to resuscitate a library system that not long ago was thought by many to be on its last legs. I immediately wanted to meet that man. After I got to know him, I discovered that he had another rare combination that the New York Times had not mentioned. He had the same interest for human beings as he had for ideas. He had the gift of humanity, and that made him an incredibly generous man, intellectually and personally, always willing to share an idea, to find the time to draw your attention to a long-forgotten book, or to send a clipping of an article he had just read. And while he let you benefit from his encyclopedic culture, there was never a hint of pontification, just a delicious twinkle in his eyes that made you a companion in his intellectual pursuits. Let me now read his remarks. Good evening, and thank you, Dean Guéhenno and Carolyn, for your kind introduction. Good evening, distinguished guests and friends. Congratulations to all the other honorees. I'm deeply honored to receive the Global Leadership Award from Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. I would like to take a moment to pay tribute to the amazing Kristalina Georgieva and her great contribution to international finance and to maintaining international order, and in particular, her support for humanitarian aid and the response to the EU's refugee crisis. I would also like to recognize Joyce Di Donato and Lang Lang, who are also being honored. You are both visionary artists. Thank you for sharing your musical talents with us tonight. I'm both proud and grateful for my Armenian heritage, as well as the legacy of the country of my birth, the glorious civilization of Persia or Iran. In my own quest for knowledge, I still feel amazed at my good luck. I was deeply fortunate to have been welcomed to the United States as a foreign student and to receive an extraordinary education at Stanford University. Like Andrew Carnegie, America became my second home, and I was proud to become a citizen of the United States. Throughout my life, I've dedicated myself to knowledge and education as both a teacher and an administrator. I was a second foreign-born provost of the University of Pennsylvania, the first foreign-born president of the New York Public Library, the first foreign-born president of an Ivy League university, and now, as president of Carnegie Corporation of New York, I'm the second foreign-born president, the first being the corporation's founder, Andrew Carnegie. I've been particularly gratified during this past year, when uncertainty has become the norm, that Carnegie Corporation of New York has been helping America recover from COVID-19 by supporting international students and helping educators adapt to virtual learning. We continue to address the challenges to our nation's democracy and respond to the complications of this crisis in our other program areas of international peace and security and African higher education. For me, this award has special meaning because it allows me to acknowledge the long friendship and historical bonds between Carnegie Corporation of New York and Columbia. The first is geographical. In 1857, Columbia moved from its original home near the present site of City Hall to 49th Street and Madison Avenue, where it remained for the next 40 years. 49th Street and Madison is now the home of Carnegie Corporation of New York headquarters. The second began with Nicholas Murray Butler, Columbia's longest-serving president, who coincidentally was also a long-term trustee of Carnegie Corporation and a close friend of Andrew Carnegie. Butler was instrumental in persuading Mr. Carnegie to provide the initial $10 million funding for the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He later became president of the think tank while remaining the president of Columbia. It has been an honor to maintain this enduring relationship. During my tenure as president, Carnegie Corporation of New York has made almost 100 grants to Columbia University, totaling over $23 million. In particular, it is a privilege to support the School of International Public Affairs, which allows students both within the United States and around the world to make a difference in their communities. As Andrew Carnegie said, to try to make the world in some way better than you found it is to have a noble motive in life. I look forward to seeing how SIPA students, faculty, and alumni pursue that noble ideal.
Thank you again, Caroline and Jean-Marie, for helping us honor Vartan this evening. And now, for one of my favorite parts of the evening, I welcome back Kristalina to join me in conversation. Kristalina, thank you again for being with us. As you look back on this terrible year, how do you think the international financial system has managed COVID-19? And what do you think of as the successes, the failures, the lessons, or is it too soon to say?
It is a year like no other. We were hit by COVID-19, triggering the worst recession since the Second World War. And on top of it, the misery of people losing their lives, their livelihoods, and not knowing what the future is going to bring. It is remarkable how swiftly central banks, finance authorities responded to this crisis like no other. We had $16 trillion of fiscal measures deployed since the beginning of the crisis, and central banks brought interest rates down, provided a lot of liquidity so we can have a floor under the world economy. If we didn't have this action in a coordinated manner, the crisis would have been 3 times worse. Where we are falling a bit short is in our ability to recognize that we are coming out of the crisis with some countries doing much better than others. Why? Because they have more capacity to help their people, because they are able to accelerate vaccinations, and also because their economies happen to be less dramatically impacted by the pandemic. But if you are a country that has tourism-dependent economy with very little fiscal space, a lot of debt from before the crisis, and no access to vaccinations, your future looks much bleaker. This is what worries us the most, that last year's great lockdown may turn into this year's great divergence within countries and also across countries. As a world, we have to recognize how interdependent we are, that we are as strong as our weakest link, and make sure that we lift up everybody, because if we don't, we cannot bring the pandemic to a durable end. We will see mutations continuing to roll around the world, causing trouble even to the countries that are in the strongest position.
Well, thank you very much. Could I invite you to say a little bit more about vaccine distribution? If you recognize, as you are arguing, that that dealing with the pandemic is crucial for economic growth, do you think the world can actually come together to assist and mitigate the lack of effective distribution? Is that something that you think we're solving at the global level, or we're facilitating? And how can the IMF help to leverage collaboration around distribution?
Let me first shout out 3 cheers for our scientists, because in record time, they have come up with vaccines to help protect lives, but also to restore livelihoods. We are seeing a growing recognition that vaccines only made available to advanced economies is going to hurt everybody, including people in rich countries. Our analysis shows that if we accelerate vaccinations everywhere, we will create $9 trillion of additional output between now and 2025. 60% of the benefit would go to emerging markets and developing economies. 40% will go to wealthy countries. And when I think of public investment, just imagine if you do that, you would get $1 trillion more in tax revenues in advanced economies. There is no better public investment than help the whole world to achieve full vaccination. How is the IMF helping? One, by making the case for vaccinations on economic grounds. What is the benefit? What is the cost if you don't do it? And two, by providing financial lifelines to countries so they have fiscal space to fund their medical systems and be able not only to obtain vaccines, but to actually vaccinate children, men, women. Just imagine countries, developing countries with small number of doctors and nurses and a huge need of the population. We believe that the world is now building up more collaborative approach to that. COVAX is finally getting more generous donations. The United States, for example, committed $4 billion very recently. And we see more appetite for collective action at all levels. Trade, reducing trade barriers. There was a moment when they were going up. Coordination of delivery distribution, and more of a sense of urgency. And I believe we have contributed to that sense of urgency by simply stating the economics of vaccinations, in addition to the very obvious moral and ethical case.
Thank you very much. I think, SIPA stands for a recognition of the interconnectedness of the world. And so, what you've just said is just a powerful argument for how we must come together when faced with a global crisis of this nature. Another crisis, though, that I think you have uniquely engaged and have a background to engage as, I think, the first head of the IMF as an environmental economist by training, is that of climate change. And I'm wondering, and I think under your leadership, the IMF is engaging more and more with different dimensions of this at the global level. Could you say a little bit about how you think the analytical assets of the IMF can be brought to bear on the climate challenge, and what you think the world needs to be able to make a difference, move it forward, and have the right metrics in doing so?
The climate crisis is upon us, and already we are witnessing the consequences of more abrupt interruptions because of weather, lives destroyed, and costs are going up. It is macro-critical. In other words, it affects macroeconomic stability and financial stability. And with the same token, when we act on climate, we generate green jobs and sustainable growth. So for an institution like the IMF that is about macroeconomic and financial stability, growth, and employment, climate change is at the heart of our mandate and what we do. And this is why we embrace it with our professional staff and the long history of policy and financial engagement we bring to the table. So what does it mean? First, it means that in our annual policy conversations with each and every member, they're known by those who follow the IMF as Article 4 consultations. We include climate change for countries that are high emitters. We concentrate on mitigation, on transition. For countries that are vulnerable to climate change, we concentrate on adaptation. 2, we look at climate-related financial stability risks. We have huge responsibility to carry out financial sector assessments. It's like taking the health of the pulse of the financial system. When we do that, we look at climate-related financial stability risks, again, in 2 dimensions. One, the so-called physical risks. Is there a risk of hurricane or drought or flood to destroy businesses to a point that it hits the financial system? And also transition risks. Is the economy highly dependent on coal or oil, and with transition away from fossil fuels, going to be translating this into the banking system, into the financial stability? When we do that, we help those who invest to see what is the right path to a sustainable investment. And our next step is to standardize how these risks are being reported and then stress test the financial system for these risks. 3, data. Good data makes for good policy. We are integrating climate data into our traditional quarterly macroeconomic data. We started this month, and we intend to build mainstream data packages for policymakers. And last but not least, as we engage in programs in countries that are either highly vulnerable or are going through a transition, we support them in making their accelerated process of migrating to the new climate economy as effective and efficient as possible. Big message coming from the IMF. To succeed in making this transition to the low carbon economy, there would be 3 prerequisites. 1, carbon price. We have to gradually increase how much does it cost to emit a ton of carbon. Today, globally, the average price is $2 a ton. By 2030, if we want to reach our Paris Agreement targets, it has to be $75 a ton. A long way to go. 2, public investment in green infrastructure, like green mobility, by making sure there are charging stations easily accessible for everyone. And 3, compensating those that are negatively impacted by this transition. In other words, helping people and businesses that have to take a turn in a more painful way. We do those 3 things, we can move as a world to a sustainable future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I now take you to Shanghai, where our distinguished SIPA alumna, Lan Yang, chairperson of Sun Media Group, founder of Her Village Academy, and a past recipient of SIPA's Global Leadership Award, will introduce our next Global Inspiration Award recipient, the incomparable pianist Lang Lang.
Hello and welcome. As a proud SIPA alumna, I'm here in Shanghai to be delighted to be with one of the most inspiring and accomplished musicians of our time, Lang Lang, also my dear friend. SIPA has created this new recognition to honor those who inspire and unite communities through their outstanding contributions as artists, advocates, and cultural ambassadors. Lang Lang, congratulations.
Thank you.
You have shown us that music as a universal language can heal, transform, and connect us with different cultural backgrounds. And through your efforts at the United Nations, UNICEF, and the Lang Lang International Music Foundation, you have helped expand global citizenship, improve the lives of children, and also ensure greater access to music education. So congratulations. I'm very glad that you could receive a Global Inspiration Award from SIPA. On behalf of SIPA, many Chinese students and alumni, and our entire community, please accept my congratulations. And also, we are very excited tonight that you will be performing a selection from your current album.
Thank you so much, dear Yang Lanjie, and also dear Dean Guéhenno, for this wonderful, kind introduction. And thank you, Columbia University and SIPA, for presenting me with the Global Inspiration Award. What a great name. SIPA has remained global in focus always, ranked #1 among schools for this area. I am deeply honored to be in the company of such a distinguished global leadership honorees and to help raise awareness of SIPA's important mission to prepare global leaders and deep history with China. I congratulate you for recognizing the importance of reuniting the world at this time of great stress. I believe cultural exchange can build stronger relations. I'm also honored to be recognized by SIPA, and I'd like to play something for you. It's a selection from the Bach's Goldberg Variations, which I have been studying more than 20 years. And also I had a great honor to performing and recording this music this year. For me, releasing this recording at the start of the pandemic was a way to hug my friends and fans around the world.
Please. Thank you, Lang Lang.
Thank you
for
very
a
much.
beautiful performance, and congratulations again. And also, congratulations for becoming a father.
Yeah.
So much to look forward to. Now we return to New York City.
Thank you so much, Lang Lang. That was marvelous. Thank you for being with us and for that uplifting performance. And thank you, Lon, for joining us from Shanghai and making it possible for us to be with you both. This brings our official program to an end. And on behalf of SIPA, thank you all for joining us. Even though we can't be together physically, I feel we are a true global community. I hope you've enjoyed this year's gala, and we look forward to seeing you in person. Until then.
Throughout history, the wheels of progress have been turned by individuals working together in community toward common goals. Tonight, we honored that spirit of collaboration as we unite in solving the great challenges of our time and heal a world divided. This gala is a recognition of bold leadership, of brave individuals and resilient communities, but it is also a recognition of you. Thanks to your generous support of our core mission to educate and mentor the next generation of leaders and scholars, SIPA's global community is stronger than ever. But the work is not done. There has never been a greater time for us to come together. Thank you for being part of this community. May we continue together to make a lasting difference in the world.